The report is understated. The comics reached more people at the time than movies, radio, and television. Cheap to produce it and purchase, comics competed for readers with more and more content. Even as the readers could get their hands on them with little supervisions and share them in peer groups. There were comics dealing with everyone from crime and horror to romance and social issues, catering to demographics for beyond young boys. There was content for men, girls, and women too. Despite the regular forecast of imminent decline the doom, the manga machine continues to chunk along. This was demonstrated by Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba in Weekly Shonen Jump from 2016 to 2020. After a relatively low-key start in its first years, when it was the shadow of longer-running staple of the magazines, the series had a major breakthrough with anime adaptations in 2019. 26-episode television series became a smash hit, driving scales of collected trade paperbacks volumes of Demon Slayer in Japan. By the end of 2020, it was reported that series held the top 22 spots for individual manga's volume sales. Anime Films continues the story of the animated series had the biggest box films opening in Japanese film history, and by the end of 2020 had become the highest grossing Japanese films of all time. It is all the more shocking because the Demon Slayer films broke these records amid a global pandemic limiting public gatherings. How many fans of the anime and more broadly the synchronously existing manga must there be such a phenomenon to occur? The scale and mix up of the comics industry made it a target in early post-war years. Some worried about sex violence corrupting youth, and others about teaching crime and contributing to juvenile delinquency. But in any case, the younger end of the readerships of comics come to be seen as a problem. It may well have been relative freedom of expression and access, along with a lack of supervision of young people, made crimes as standout conservatives. Comic books should be treated as an issue of public welfare or a public health hazard, and hence, for the safety and well-being of children, be regulated to avoid social harm. With many concerned about the government regulation, the publishers formed a self-regulatory body, the Comics Code Authority, founded in 1954, instituted one of the most oppressive regulatory regimes in history, called, for example, not only banned depicting the policemen's government officials and institutions and disrespectful ways, but also require that in every instance good shall triumph over evil. Depictions of excessive violence were forbidden, and vampires, wolves, and zombies were banned. Not simply satisfied with condemning sexy, wanton comics, the code targeted depictions of sexual perversions, sexual abnormalities, and erotic sexual relations. Love stories were enjoined to emphasize the sanctity of marriage, and those portrays scenes of passions were advised to avoid stimulating lower and worse emotions. Ironically, comics, properly labeled for adults, and the Senate subcommittee found that the comics were not a cause of juvenile delinquency. Comics Code Authority and One Fell Swoop eliminated most opportunity for adult content and severely limited what was available to young people. As comics artists and to understand the impact of the code, imagine that movies producers were subjected to far more stringent requirements for a G ratings, and that there was no other acceptable ratings as adult content and approachings were increasingly read out. One was essentially left with one wholesome and unfunny superheroes and animated. This made the comics are far less appealing to an audience beyond children. Adults and girls migrated away, and many others turned to television for entertainment. Emotions are highlighted in the manga style. The art is expressive, villains are sympathetic, and Demon Slayers so powerful portraits. Good does not always triumph. There is life there, death, sex, and violence, everything. How did content such as this become so common in Japan?